Today is Fun with Chemistry Day with some wild chemicals and some electrodes and electricity and all that. If you like what you see in the video today, would you please like it, comment, let me know what you think or your experiences have been, and subscribe. It encourages me to make more of these videos. This is about things that aren't in the manual that I learned along the way. I'm getting ready to do, I've done the oil pan bolts. These are now black oxide coated, and I'm trying to find a way to treat bolts and get them from this state, which is the state at which I just took it off the car, to this state. And I used to paint them, and I didn't care for that because the paint would just fall off. So I've tried black oxide, so this will be interesting. So here's the process I use end to end. So first is electrolysis, and I've got just a plastic tank, and I've got a piece of sheet metal that I bent into a square to go all the way around it. And then I've tried a number of things, including a little basket to put the parts in, and so on. I found that the conductivity to the bolts just wasn't very good. So what I did was I drilled some holes, and the trick here is to make the bolts be the closest thing to the part you're wanting to derust, be the closest thing to the metal on the outside. So I'm going to put it in like this, and as long as the bolts are the closest thing to this piece here, the electrolysis will work. We'll need to add a little bit of water to that. Now the question is, how do you do with the washers? For the washers, I came up with this gizmo. What we can do is just put the washers on like that. And again, as long as the washers are the closest thing to the metal, they'll derust. So we'll put these on, these lock washers. I know some people say don't reuse lock washers. I've not had a problem, but we'll put the nut on. Oh, I didn't trim one of these. I didn't trim any of these to be the size of a nut. Let's see if that one. No, I'm going to have to trim a couple of these so that the nuts can go on. Okay, we're back, and I just trimmed this up. Just took a Dremel and just ground this edge just a little bit, just so that the nut would go on, and I could turn it just enough to get it to stick. So again, my goal is to figure out a way to do these en masse, and so we're going to go ahead and put this one in that way, this one in this way. So I've got the negative attached to the inside piece. I've got the positive attached to the outside piece, which goes all the way around. I've got a jumper lead from this sheet metal to this piece of sheet metal. Now you see that those aren't quite covered, so we're going to add some more water, get everything covered up. Now I need more water. Okay, everything's covered on that side. The bolts are covered on that side. I set it to 2 amps. 2 amps on standard charge. And now, this water that was in there already had some of this washing soda in it. You need to use washing soda, not baking soda. And so now we'll go ahead and plug this in. I have added water to it, so the mix probably isn't ideal. Go ahead and let you see. Oh, it's not doing badly. A little bit of glare there where the bubbles are going. And it's bubbling on the other side too. I found that you can, as far as measuring goes, oh, too much. I started out measuring very carefully, tablespoon per quart or something like that. But then I'll just add in a little, if the reaction's not very good, I'll just add in a little bit more and stir it up. And that'll be enough to get it going. And you just add till it gets going. It's going really, really well now. You can see it's churning away like mad there. And also on this side. And then we're going to use some of the black oxide concentrate and then seal it when we're done. And there's a trick to this black oxide concentrate, so stay tuned. So that I took them off of here, out of the electrolysis, and I took a little bit of Dawn and put the Dawn in here in hot water and shook it and did that for a minute or two to get all the grease out of it. They're pretty clean. Now I've been hoping to get away from this thing and wire wheeling these guys. I tried a phosphoric acid bath, which is another way to derust it. You can get this at big box stores. It gets diluted 5-to-1, something like that. And I tried soaking into that because this will remove paint and other things, but it doesn't quite get it. I've done this a couple times now. It doesn't quite get it clean enough. So I do end up on the wire wheel, where all your safety equipment but you need to get them for this to turn out well, for the black oxide to turn out well. You need to get these really, really kind of clean. So I cleaned them up really well. Again, be very, 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 very careful when you do that. Sandblasting, I might do sandblasting my sandblast cabinet. I have to wheel it in and out. So I don't like getting the sandblaster out for just a batch of nuts and bolts. So here's the ship packing list. You'll see that I bought one black oxide kit with 1.25 gallon. Here's some instructions on how to do this. This is a cold system. This is not hot. So this was developed by Commercial Gun Blue manufacturers as a more environmentally friendly way to do it. And so on. It talks about sandblasting, wire brushing, and so on is the preparation. We'll look more at this later, but right now we're just going to just unpack it. So you don't have to buy all this stuff, but I just bought the kit for Christmas. Merry Christmas. And the kit comes with a bucket. Comes with the black oxide concentrate, and this makes you mix this 1 pint with nine parts of 1 to 9, so this makes a lot, probably more than I'll ever need in the rest of my life. Let's see what else is in here. This penetrating sealer. I think this is what goes on afterwards, I think, to seal it up. And let's see what this is. Another thing of penetrating sealer. So this is quite a bit. And a bucket with 2 lids. I wonder what that's about. Oh, 2 buckets. That's right. And two gallon, looks like gallon quarter buckets. So here's the laboratory. What I do is so this is my phosphoric acid. I will I'll put it in that if I use that. Then I rinse it off. I have a thing of distilled water that I'll rinse it off between the final step, but I just use tap water. I dump them back in here, and then pour the phosphoric acid back into that, and then I go and rinse it in the sink and rinse it off, and so on. Once I get it to the point where it's like this, where I've taken it through the electrolysis here. I've given it a bath of a tiny bit of Dawn in hot water and shook it. I've done a phosphoric acid if I'm going to do that, and then I've taken it over to the wire brush. I have it here. My next step is to dump it in a Pyrex bowl and heat these up to 200 to 250 degrees. Before breaking news on the use of the Pyrex dish for this process. This is what's left of my Pyrex dish. Now I remember using Pyrex for in chemistry lab and all that kind of thing, and heating it up under Bunsen burners and all that just fine. I was working away on some bolts and so on, and I was heating it up with my propane torch. All of a sudden it went bang, and that's what's left of that Pyrex dish. So what I'm doing now is I'm using the end of this, and so what I do is I set the bolts on the and nuts and so on the end of this, heat it up with the propane torch, and then and get it to 250 or so, and then I dump it into the black oxide mix, and I don't do it over the plastic barrel. I do it out like this. I also do it elevated because if you hold the torch tipped down, you're going to have liquid directly getting into the stream, and it creates a black coating. That's not the way to use it. Propane torch always should be tipped up. So anyway, this style anyway. So breaking news. This is supposed to be a cold process, but I found that it just didn't take, and the directions say heat it up to 120 if you really want to get it better. Well, I kept playing with it, and I've got it up to 200 to 250 to dump it in there. So what I'll do is I'll take a propane torch like this, a temperature gun, and again a Pyrex bowl, and I'll heat these up until I get to between 200 and 250 degrees. Then I'll pick this whole thing up and I'll just dump it right into the black oxide mix, and this goes for about 5 minutes. And we'll start the clock. I know it's awful hard to see. It does get milky after a while, but they're already, this has been in there about a minute, already turning nice and black. So we'll let that soak for 5 minutes. So it's been 5 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and dump this out. You probably should wear gloves here. And I'm just going to dump the contents of this out, and this is the cover, the lid for this. So we'll just go ahead and do this. The rest of it out. I'm going to take and dump it into some distilled water. Shake it, and I shook it a couple of times each time when it was in that. And I'm going to take a lid here and dump the distilled water back out. There's one that got missed. Excuse, probably not good. Again, wear gloves, don't do what I do. And we'll go ahead and empty it from the distilled water. You probably want to change that water at this point. And then I will take and dry it off. So if you leave it in a little too long, it gets what is called smutty. You can see it's got a kind of little coating on there, a little smut. And so what I do if I accidentally overcooked it a little bit, I'll just take a paper towel and just wipe that smut stuff off like that. If you're paying attention, you notice that this is not the batch of hardware I started off with. I actually did my timing chain cover bolts before, and I forgot to video the rest. So anyway, so this is now a family show. You can see I got all the smut off. So this is now rated G. I put just a little bit in here. I don't think you need to douse it. And I found that the time in here isn't really that important either. It says to put it into 1 to 2 minutes. So, and this is a sealer. I know that they sell, what is it, T8 or something like that, that is a sealer that you can buy that'll help rust-proof stuff, and I think that's what this is. And I just do this and shake it around and keep them wet, and I time it for 1 to 2 minutes. I may not shake it the whole time, just set it down and let it soak for a minute. I've also found that even after 2 minutes, I'll set it on here to dry, or on a lid like this to dry, and it'll dry and it won't quite be as shiny black as I want it. So I'll dip it again. It doesn't really matter. I've also tested it by I put it in I put a nut in the vise, and I put a socket on it. It'll scratch it just a tiny little bit, but I think I'm overall pretty happy with that. While I'm at it, I wanted to talk about plating. So these washers, I experimented. These were originally zinc plated, and I tried putting black oxide on zinc plated plated ones of these, and it just didn't stick. By putting these in the phosphoric acid and letting it go until the fizzing stopped, it ate into the zinc, and then the black oxide would take. So if you've got zinc plated or plated pieces and you want them to be black oxided, that phosphoric acid is a great little trick. I'm gonna go ahead and take this out, and the directions say just to shake it off and set it down. So I was putting it on the paper towel, but I found it's better to put it on plastic, and that way you get it doesn't soak up this sealant from the back side. It still lets it sit there and dry with a coating of a sealer on it rather than soaking it up. I do kind of try to knock it off though, and I just put a little bit to begin with, and I've done 4 bags of hardware now with this stuff, and that sealant is still just fine. So I think this is a good way of doing it. So here we are on Caswell's website, caswellplating.com, and you select the black oxide kit, and there is a nice video that explains how to do the black oxide process. And if you look through here, there's all kind of options. You can buy the individual components, or you can buy the kit. And what I did was I bought this kit for $70. Do you need to buy the kit? I think if I had it to do over again, I might choose to buy the activator, but I would buy one pint of the concentrate, for $20. And then interesting here too, they also have coloring, so you can make your bolts different colors if you want to do a color process. And then you have to search on it. What I ended up doing to find the sealer part of the kit, I had to do actually a search their site on the sealer, and I found the cans of sealer. And their cans of sealer cost $20 a piece. So basically in the kit you got one pint of the black oxide concentrate for $20. You got 2 of the penetrating sealers, so for $20 each, so that's $60. And then you get 2 buckets. So you're basically paying you're paying $10 for the buckets, and I'm not using the buckets. So if I were doing it again, I don't need 2 things of sealer. I only need 1 really. So I would buy 1 penetrating sealer, and I would buy 1 black oxide kit. So if you look at the benefits of Caswell Plating's sealer, it seems to line up exactly to Boeshield T9, which is an industry standard for doing the same thing. So you may, if you have Boeshield T9, you might just use that, or if you want to buy some, anyway, that's your choice. And the directions do say if you don't have the shiny finish you want, you know, apply it again. The other thing I found with this stuff is that you can apply it if you have some odd piece of hardware. You can apply it directly and then neutralize it. It says, and it'll do it that way. If you have a piece that's stubborn, you can apply it undiluted, is what I meant to say, not directly, but you can use a brush like an acid brush and apply it undiluted, and then deal with it that way. Okay, a little bit of heat. And an uncontaminated brand new brush. And let's see what it does. Well, it's still drying with a bit of a weirdness to it, so I'm going to take some of I'm going to try it in the diluted black oxide solution and see if that fixes it. And we'll let it soak for its 2 to 5 minutes. We'll let it soak in that for 2 to 5 minutes and see if that doesn't fix it. And this time we'll rinse it off in the distilled water. That's looking pretty darn black. Remember, it didn't even touch it in the concentrate before, but now that's looking pretty good. The other thing that you might be asking is what about the threads? Does it impact the threads? Does it cause it not to cause interference on the nut and the threads? No, there's no interference at all, and that's the instructions say there's no interference either. That it actually changes the composition of the surface metal. It doesn't coat it per se. And that's the black oxide process. I'm pretty happy with it. It's a little bit more labor intense than I want it to be. Maybe the sandblasting of the parts. That's the part that's too labor intensive, the wire wheeling of it. But anyway, so I do these videos for things that are not in the manual, things that I learned along the way. And this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. If you like this, or if you thought this is interesting, you thought somebody else would find this interesting, please like it and subscribe to the channel. That encourages me to take the time to make more videos.